working, and we did the computation of that. We did 3 new panels for debugging information, and it explains all the different setups we've got and all the calculation we are doing for each of these computations. So here the first example is the ground effect. So it is a full debug screen with every single details on how the ground effect is working. So just I can see barely things on my feedbacks, but what you may see maybe because I can't is that the ground effect is happening at a certain height. This height is basically the span of the wings, and we are doing some computation here to give a percentage of the effect of the ground effects on the plane, and this percentage is then reintroduced. Can you help me, Seth, because I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. And so I think the screen is really helping people to understand the complexity, because one thing is that, one detail is that ground effect is really per surface, and so it may be higher here. The plane, has V-shape wings, and so the middle of the plane is closer to the ground than the side of the wings. You can see that in the screen, right? You see the distance to ground, how much ground effect it makes. And on this, I'm flying very fast. You can see that the ground effect is actually very small. It's only 1% on overall drag. It's at the bottom. It's 20%, 15% right now on lift. And so the ground effect can be tuned by aircraft, right? There is data in the file. It can be made more or less strong. And there's been a lot of discussions. Is it too strong? With this screen, people who are not happy about ground effect, they can look into it and see what is wrong. We have fixed the one plane that had an issue. It's the King Air, and it wasn't a ground effect issue. You can see that at the top here. You also see the drag and thrust. Actually, the King Air was well over thrusted in idle, and so when you land, well, you idle, and so that felt like there was too much ground effect, but actually it was too much idle thrust. But maybe on some other planes, or when a plane maker makes his own plane, he will think that there's too much ground effect at some point, and this screen really helps debug.
Yeah, so same here. So if you've got any feedbacks on how we do the computation of the drag or the ground effect, and if you please give us some feedback, they are more than welcomed. So here, same here. I've got basically no video on my screen, so it's explain how the drag is working. So the good thing of this screen is that you can see every single step for the computation of the drag has been put, so everybody will be able to understand how it's working. Oh, I can say a thing.
Yeah, it's very small.
Not
yeah, so there was a lot of discussions. Yeah, our support also talked to people who were trying to understand drag, and it's not very easy because there is FSX was the theoretical drag formula.
Thank you.
Okay, it was just the drag, so it's very easy, right? It's what is the formula? Well, that's the drag. Here, there's the theory. That's what you enter in the file. But then, what is actually happening on the plane in real world? And so we have a flight, a tunnel, right? A wind tunnel, and then we have the actual plane in air. And so everything is here. You can see how the drag is built together, what formulas are applied, what parameters the plane maker set in the file, and so why it's doing something. So for example, there's coefficients, scalars, you can put, it's everything here. The formulas are actually appearing. And on this plane, it's pretty easy because I'm flying fast and there's no prop wash. And some planes have prop wash. You will see that some surfaces are going faster, some are other. And this sort of mixes up the drag formula because, well, when there is a plane flying at 100 knots, but the propeller is washing air at 150 knots, how do you calculate the formula? So here it does all the different calculations. And you get all the different CDs, whatever the base speed you take, and it's very easy to understand. So we didn't find any problem with the simulation. With this, I mean, it helped us too, right, to see and recheck everything. We didn't find any problem. So it's going to help plane makers author the planes. And if someone finds a problem with his plane, then it's much easier for him to communicate, hey, this is wrong on my plane, what's going on? Because now we have the data.
Okay, so another debug screen, which is about the aerodynamic center and the computation of the weight. Jen, could you zoom in? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to zoom because only 6 lines are new here. Current at the top, current something. Yeah.
So
and
here,
yeah.
Sorry, continue, please.
Yeah, so you get basically there was a long discussion with plane makers thinking that we were using just the flat airfoil theory with a lift or aerodynamic center always at 25% Mach. I mean, that's not really the case because that's a theoretical simplification of airplanes. We just have surfaces in the world and we throw air at them. So we can't say, hey, the aerodynamic center is here. It's where it is, right? And so these new 6 lines, they actually measure the pressure center, the aerodynamic center, and the lift center per the definition, which is whatever, Wikipedia or university, you can find it. So, and we measure it only on the wing and then on the full plane. So that plane makers can say, oh, where is my aerodynamic center? So the aerodynamic center definition being the change in CM, you need to actually pitch up and down to see it. Otherwise, it's just random crap. But the pressure center and lift center are pretty stable and also computed by the official definition. And you can see where they are, right? So on this plane, on the wing, pressure center, yeah, 25%. Not really, 24.7, you see, and it's moving around when I change the surfaces. If you consider the entire plane, because, well, the fuselage also contributes, the tail contributes, the wheel contributes, then it's not even at 25 anymore. Then it moves to 20 or somewhere else. This is, we don't have any, I mean, the sim doesn't have really control over this. This is the plane file. If the wing is here, if the tail is here, it's fully dependent on how you create the plane. And this is going to give this. But now, plane maker, if he wants his aerodynamic center to be somewhere, at least he has help and can move the surfaces around to get the data he wants. Same thing again, this helped us make sure we don't have a bug. We didn't find any problem, but if someone has a problem with this plane, with the screen, he can say, hey, look, I should have this value, I get this value, what's wrong? It's just another screen to help people.
Oh, so yes, so some people have asked why we are doing Reno and what is the use of that. Well, I would say that it's super important for us to use the flight sim in different use cases. And for Reno, we've got some new use cases, and especially we worked on the streaming and on the rendering of the bushes here when you're flying super fast, very close to the ground. So this is one improvement that has been brought because of Reno. And so it's always interesting to test the simulation in different environments. So here you can see exactly the work that has been done for improving the rendering on all the bushes that comes with the tree. Jörg? You wanted to add something?
Nope.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can add. So it's just this is the fastest we've ever gotten so close to the ground. And you can see also the ground effect debug screen helped us too in this case, right? Make sure it works well because you fly so close to the ground in these races. And yeah, and we have to build thousands and thousands of bushes and trees every frame because you're just going so fast. And so we had to optimize this further, which means that if you're flying with another plane, well, you still get less load on your CPU, right? CPU and GPU. And so it means better optimization overall.
So yes, on this video, you can see one of the other improvements we did because of Reno. On Reno, you can fly the speeds, you can see there. And we're struggling by the past to have like a very sharp movement for aerobatic planes. And because of Reno, because of these planes, we found the reason why, and we improved. It was basically the way that the sim was creating a limitation for the acceleration of the rotation. And so thanks to this plane in Reno, we found the bug, and now as you can see, the rotation are very sharp, and you can do the kind of movement that aerobatics are doing.
Yeah, and I would actually thank some of the plane makers who brought up this
that's
issue.
right.
Yeah, very specifically. And actually, I didn't even remember this because I read this line of code, which comes from FlightSim X and which limits acceleration rotation. I think I read this maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't even remember it was there. And it's in a place where, I mean, it's a different part of the code. It's at the very end. It's totally unrelated to the flight model. And it just, I think for safety and make sure stuff doesn't explode, it just limits all data. And rotation acceleration was limited to 400 or 500 degrees per second squared, which is, well, it's cool for most planes, but not for aerobatics. And that's why we could never get, so I mean, like aerobatic planes, you see when they do these super sharp, like quarter turns or stuff, quarter roll, we could never get this. And so we unlocked, so we measured how high it would go. The fastest accelerating plane we had was 2000-ish, 2500 degrees per second squared. So we set the limit to 2800. No explosion, no, I mean, it's stable enough. It doesn't, whatever, create any other problems. But now you can see you can do super sharp rolls. That's really only for the pits, for the extra. I don't think any other plane is going to have any change because of that. But for these planes, it's, yeah.
They're about Captain too, yeah.
Captain, yeah, Captain. But you're going to feel it less. It was in the thousands. So you're going to still get an improvement, but it was not going as much.
Okay. And well, finally, one of the last improvements we did because of Reno and thanks to Reno experience we had, these are wake turbulences. So as you can, it's still a work in progress, right? And so you can see that by flying just after the first jet, I don't see a damn thing on my screen. Sorry, the compression is terrible. So I think that I can remember there's a jet just in front of the one you're flying, and then you can feel the wake turbulences. So that's super important for Reno races, obviously, but it will be still the case.
So just a note, it's not a complete simulation of wake turbulence. It's a first step. So it really only works when you're flying behind on small planes. It's not gonna do like if you have a giant, like a 747 taking off, and there's gonna be vortices surviving for 2 minutes on the runway. That's not yet there. We plan to have that first semester in 2022 around that time. This is really just a local, you need to have a plane to actually get it. And we need to tune it and make it work well for also the race condition, because you get that all the time in Reno races. You're always sort of following someone. So it was extremely important. And Reno pilot feedback was that, yeah, this is a key element of the race. So we're tuning that in that context. And it's going to take another improvement. I mean, it's a totally other beast to have, yeah, wake turbulence survive in the world for a long time. But that's planned. It's going to be early next year or mid next year.
That's super important for Seb because he never gets first.
And yes, so this is any plane you're following. So whether it's multiplayer, whether it's AI, anything, if it's airborne, if it's generating lift, it's generating induced drag, you're going to have wake turbulences behind it.
I think we can now switch to night lights.